Well, all right, y'all. How are we doing on this Monday afternoon? Thank the basketball gods, because I was nervous there for a little bit that we were going to have a pretty quiet, uneventful first day of free agency. Of course, Jaren Jackson Jr. signed a big contract to remain with the Grizzlies, but I knew there would be some trade going down today, and I'm glad I waited and was ready because this is a super fun one here. Denver finally taking a big swing. It was probably necessary. The past couple of seasons since their title run, they were kind of mostly running it back, just trying to hope that some of their younger guys would just fill in as they lost some of their vets like KCP. And in many ways, like the roster isn't looking super different for Denver after this trade. This is in many ways kind of a lateral move for them, but the flexibility that this will bring for Denver, I think, is excellent. And pretty cool that the Brooklyn Nets finally traded Cam Johnson as well. I think we all kind of saw it coming. He's still fairly well, he's actually not that young. He's 29. I keep forgetting. I think of him as being young, but he was in college for a while, so yeah, it doesn't quite fit the Brooklyn timeline. We all kind of knew he'd probably be on the move. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get into things, shall we? Are the Nuggets cooking? I want to think so, yes. I think Cam Johnson is a pretty solid pickup for one very specific reason, and that is that he is a whole hell of a lot cheaper than Michael Porter Jr. In many ways, they are extremely comparable players. Very, very close averages. So Michael Porter Jr. last season averaged 18 points, and that was just shy of his career high that he did in 2021. So, it's not like Michael Porter Jr. has dropped off a cliff compared to what we've seen from him, but he's never taken like a necessarily a massive leap. He's been across his career a bit consistent except for the injuries, but it makes sense that they would want to move on from him because in the playoffs, the last couple of seasons, just a little bit inconsistent. And it's been a little while since we saw Cam Johnson in like a playoff setting, but he really seems to have been growing the past few seasons in Brooklyn. So this is an exciting trade. And this past season, Cam Johnson averaged a career high 18.8 points, which at this stage in his career, it's good to see that he still seems to be growing. Like I said, he's 29, a bit on the older side, and he's also a bit shorter than Michael Porter Jr. He's 6'8", and Michael Porter Jr. is 6'10". They can both be good lob threats. I think of Michael Porter Jr. as being a bit more of a lob threat, but they're both guys who are kind of 3 and D type players, and both of them are more 3 than D. So for Denver, they get a guy that they can really just slot right in to the Michael Porter Jr. role, but hopefully will be a little bit more consistent in the playoffs, maybe be a bit hungrier, and most importantly is just the fact that he's cheaper. So they're both under contract for the next couple of seasons, but consistently Cam Johnson will be making about $17 million less, which is a pretty substantial amount when you're a team like Denver in the situation they're in, where you could easily sign a pretty great role player for 17 million, maybe even a couple different players. And so that will really just afford Denver a whole lot of extra flexibility. So for the next season, Cam Johnson's making 21 million, whereas Michael Porter Jr. is making about 37, 38 million. And then next season, Cam Johnson's contract jumps up a little bit to 23 mil, but then Michael Porter Jr. is going to be making a whopping 40 million the season after that. So, like I said, consistently about a $17 million difference. And that's really why this is such a good fit for Denver, is it just affords them that flexibility. I'm really curious to see what they can do with the money they could maybe offer out there. And, free agency has started now, so I don't know exactly who could be a great player for them to pick up off the top of my head. Doesn't seem like there are really that many guys looking to be on the move. It looks like Memphis is targeting Ty Jerome. Maybe Denver could look at him. I doubt they could outbid Memphis, but Ty Jerome just seems like a guy who's really grown to be a really excellent role player and shooter. He'd be a great guy that I'd love to see the Nuggets pick up. But both players are very comparable shooters, and that is the main asset that they bring to the table, is the fact that they are high volume shooters and they have experience doing it in a playoff setting. Michael Porter Jr. has averaged slightly more points on his career at 16, and Cam has averaged only 13 points on his career, but lately in Brooklyn for the last 2.5 seasons that he's been there, Cam Johnson has averaged 16 points per game, so as of late, very consistent averages. As far as the three-point shooting goes, Michael Porter Jr. shot 39.5% from three last season and 40.6% on his career. And Cam Johnson has also been a very consistent shooter on his career. Both last season and for his career, he shot 39%. But yeah, I like this for Denver a lot. It should be a pretty seamless fit, and they now have additional flexibility. And I feel like I'm repeating myself. Let's move on to talking about Michael Porter Jr. in Brooklyn now. He should probably be there for the next couple of seasons. Maybe they could flip him towards the end of his contract, but making the amount of money he's making, I think odds are good that he's probably going to play out the next couple seasons of his contract in Brooklyn. And he could be a good influence on some of the younger guys there as a guy with championship experience, playing in a winning system, playing next to an MVP caliber player like Jokic. So there's still some value to having a guy like Michael Porter Jr. on the team, but in general, this trade is about the pick. And I think this is a pretty solid pick for Brooklyn to pick up. 2032 is a ways out. It's not as far away as it sounds, but 7 years out is still a ways out. But in some ways, that can make it a valuable pick because it's easy to imagine that far from now, good chance that Denver's looking pretty bad. Jokic will be in his mid to late 30s, and maybe they're already looking to the next era. So this is just in general a really solid pick for Brooklyn to have in their war chest to stash away for a rainy day. I don't know if you try to move it too quick, and I mean, Brooklyn's in the middle of a rebuild. I think it's the perfect asset to have on hand for once they finally start to build up out of the rebuild and they're ready to take a swing and bring in a win now player. By 28, 29, maybe they make a move then, and that asset will really come in handy. I'm not going to lie, I kind of wonder if they couldn't have gotten even a little bit more for Cam Johnson. I mean, this pick is very nice, but I can't help but think, could you have maybe gotten 2 first-round picks? For a long time, I heard a lot of people saying, oh, could OKC trade for Cam Johnson? And I thought that would have been a very interesting situation there. I think Cam Johnson definitely could have fit into what OKC was doing. I guess OKC is just a team where it's like they never seem too inclined to make any given trade just because they have so many draft picks and they draft so well. They typically just draft their own guys and develop them, and that has been more cost effective for them. But certainly, I'm waiting to see if they make some kind of move where they send out multiple picks. I'm just wondering if there could have been some kind of bidding war for Cam Johnson where there was a situation where Brooklyn could have gotten like one more first round pick. Like at least two doesn't seem crazy for a franchise like OKC that would have a lot of picks. But it's possible Denver was the only team that was really knocking on their door. And I think this 2032 pick is pretty solid. So in general, I think this is a pretty fun win-win trade for both sides. And I'm curious to see how it plays out. And yeah, curious to see what else is going to go down as more players are looking to sign contracts. But just wanted to go ahead and get this video out. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch y'all on the flip.